Hello, welcome back to the last session of the National Education Cycle for VPs and Coordinators. I'm Alex, your FASI, of course, and we're going to talk about the customer flow for VPs and Coordinators. So we went through the customer flow for TLs and TMs. Hopefully you looked at it, but you didn't have to. But if you did, that's super cool. But I'm going to go over the ones for VPs and Coordinators. So as you know, this is the customer flow. I'm not going to go over it since you should know about it. But compared to the one in TM, I added pre-attraction, which for you guys is very, very important. Probably where you're going to be doing the most tasks that do not include delegation or tracking. It's just a matter of you doing it. So that includes, of course, university relations, investments for posts, ads, IR partnerships, market research, personas, etc. So these are your customer flow responsibilities. Of course, not all of this. These are not maybe all of your responsibilities, or you may have less, but these are just some responsibilities that I could think of that you may have, and I think you should have. But of course, also it's in the end up to you what other responsibilities that you could have. And of course, it's also up to your LCP. But for pre-attraction, since you want to work with B2C on creating personas, conducting market research, creating university relations, and determining investments needed for attraction, as I mentioned, and of course, creating IR partnerships and obtaining resources and showcasing materials and opportunities from IR partners. So those are all the things that you should be focused on in pre-attraction. This is actually where a lot of your JD would be coming, especially in the beginning of your term. But for some of you, you've already gone through half of your term and even more, so that's not important for you, but still getting those showcasing materials and opportunities is an ongoing process. And same as conducting market research if you feel like your supply is not matching the demand. Next is attraction. Ensure your team has attraction channels for selling, ensure all materials and trackers are up to date, and ensure members are trained and know how to sell. So it's a matter of making sure your whole team has what they need in order to be selling during the attraction phase. Next is consideration, so ensure all OGT and IGT trackers are updated. By what I mean by IGT is making sure that opportunity trackers are updated and making sure that when your TLs or team members are looking for opportunities, that they're looking at the correct opportunities that are open. So those are some things that you should be looking at and making sure you update your IR partners to update them. Next is tracking TLs to ensure a strong applicant to approval conversion. And of course, supporting team regarding IR if you need to be reviewing CVs or talking to IR about or pushing an EP or pushing your team leader to approve someone. These are some things that you should be considering during the consideration phase. Next is preparation, so overseeing the OPS, making sure it's done, ensure standards are being delivered, and then that's when you start tracking your EPs. So as I mentioned earlier, the standards tracker, that's when you can start tracking them and ensuring that all standards are being delivered. And then experience is you ensure all standards are being tracked by the TLs and the TMs, and you ensure there's a consistent communication with the host entity. And post experience is you ensure that the reintegration seminar is being conducted, along with ensuring standards are being delivered or have been delivered. So as you can see, majority of the task is a matter of overseeing things as a bird's eye view, creating trackers, creating materials, training, and things like that to ensure that your team has everything needed in order to perform. Okay, and in short, your role as a VP. As a VP or coordinator, you have a strategic role. You ensure your strategies are being implemented and are tracking the progress of the entire customer flow. Also, you ensure your TLs are working well with their teams too. As a VP, the only time you work with EPs may be during selling offline, stands, events, etc. with your team, or during OPS and IRS with your team. I actually highly recommend that not only you and your entire team should be selling Isaac, but the entire LC should be selling Isaac because everyone should be driven for exchange. Next, you are in charge of creating IR partners with IGT and making sure your team is educated about everything. So you are the main head about IR. You're the one always thinking about IR and having those meetings with IR, etc. That's actually where a lot of your JD is going to be. That's where a lot of your JD is directed to. And at the end, of course, as I said many times, you have the bird's eye view of the whole portfolio, and you're essentially like a product manager of your local committee. So you're a local product manager, which is something super cool, and you have a lot of tasks to do as marketing, operations, etc. But like I said, it's very fulfilling, it's very difficult, but your role is very various, and yes, amazing. And thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.